Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert alongside my great friend, my dear friend, my wonderful buddy, Father Joe Grimaldi, and we would like to welcome you to the Father Joe Podcast. The Father Joe Podcast is proudly supported by our dear friends at Houghton McInerney Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road, east of Telegraph, in Southfield. The Lincoln Wish List sales event is happening right now. Choose your Lincoln, from the power of the Navigator to the elegance of the Continental. Star Lincoln as the vehicle for your lifestyle. Stop on by, say hi, have a cup of coffee, Houghton McInerney Star Lincoln. Check out the Aviator, the Corsair, Nautilus, and of course, the Lincoln MKZ. Star Lincoln, 12 Mile and Telegraph in Southfield, home of the Star treatment. The Lincoln Wish List sales event is happening now. These savings will not last and are available for a very limited time. So get to Houghton McInerney Star Lincoln, shop online anytime at starlincoln.com. Do us a favor, tell them you heard about Star Lincoln on the Father Joe Podcast. Houghton McInerney Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road, just east of Telegraph, or visit starlincoln.com. Well, here we go. It's showtime. And here we go. It's week number 2. I know Easter is your holiday. We've mentioned that many times.
Sure.
But you do like Christmas.
Of course, I love Christmas.
How about
How could you not?
Advent is a great time of the year, right?
Yeah, it's a time of expectation.
Sure.
And it's a time that we prepare ourselves. You know, very often, because of the color purple, people get it confused with the penitential season of Lent.
Yeah.
There's nothing penitential about Advent because it is a preparation, an expectation that the Lord is coming. And so it's the idea that we come to celebrate his first appearance on this earth, but we also look forward to his final, when he comes to judge the living and the dead. So his final coming, and in between, every so often, if we listen carefully, he comes to us in different ways. And of course we know that we're going to have to meet him when it's our time, and he calls us back to himself. And so that's the time when he'll ask that big question, what have you done with the talents I have given you? So that's the interesting part that we're going to have to get ready for. So we really get ready for Christmas because of the tree and the sweets and all of those good things. But by the same token, we're preparing ourselves for more serious events in the future. So it's a time of preparation.
Advent week 2. All right, let's break them into 4 quarters,
Sure,
if you will.
Yeah.
All right, so I know you're not a big fan of, I know we're into cycles. Now we're going into cycle A, is it, did you say?
Correct.
All right, we just wrapped up cycle C.
Correct.
And just as a really quick refresher, it's broken into 3 different cycles, A, B, and C.
That's it.
And if you cover all 3 cycles, A, B, and C, you basically have not necessarily interpreted, but basically received the entire Bible.
You've heard, yeah. Almost, not everything.
Almost, yeah, I mean, that would, that'd be impossible.
Sure.
So, once again, if things seem different than they did a year ago, that's because we are back into cycle A.
And the readings would be slightly different.
That's exactly what I was going for there. Will we notice anything different this year, Advent week 1, 2, 3, or 4?
You know, I think one of the things is this, that we're very, cycle A concentrates on hope for this particular Sunday coming up, you know. And why do I say that? Because ordinarily the prophet Isaiah is used a lot during this time of the year. And Isaiah speaks about this Sunday, you'll hear it, he speaks about the Messiah with the lambs lying down with the wolves and no fear involved. He speaks about this time of peace that's going to happen in the future, a time when the strong people will never overcome the weak, or the crooks would never prey on the innocent people. Boy, that's something beautiful to look forward to.
Yeah, it sure is.
And of course, you know what happens? Ordinarily, we hear a lot about faith and love because they're part of the Gospels and so on. But during the Advent season, with its wonderful promises of a new world that we have to look forward to, we focus on the virtue of hope. And so it's going to be throughout Advent, we'll hear a lot about hope. So you probably say to yourself, why is that important? Why is it necessary? Well, because if things and people were perfect, we wouldn't need hope. Who would need hope? But that's not the case. We live in an imperfect world, and that's exactly why we need hope. You know, often we put all of our hopes in politicians who are not so honest. So why not try hoping in God?
Ah, I see where you're going.
You know, I think it's an important thing that we concentrate on hope. You know, we spend a lot of time, we long for and we wait for and we hope for one thing or another. It's impossible to live if we have no hope. Hope is as important for the soul and for the spirit as food is for the body. But hope doesn't mean that we're just going to sit back and wait for things to happen. It's hope that spurs us into action. It's precisely because we have hope that we work so hard to achieve our goals. We believe that our efforts are worthwhile and that they do make a difference. Our strength, our commitment, our energy for anything are only as good as the degree and the quality of hope that we have. I don't know. Are you questioning that? Why don't you?
I find hope to be an interesting word. I would prefer the exchange to be faith as opposed to hope. Hope to me is, I've always had a problem with the word hope.
Okay.
Because I hope when I grow up that I'm just like my dad. Hope just, it doesn't have a feeling of conclusion to it for me. Hope is just wanting something. I hope to live to be 90. I hope to be 100. But there's no guarantees, whereas I have faith that whatever's in store for me, that's good. That's fine with me.
Yeah, but when you say you hope to be like your dad, and I know you use that as an example, but it's not that you are looking to be like your dad in the sense that you like the qualities that he had. So those are the qualities that you're hoping for, hoping to achieve. But to be like your dad, well, we can't be like another person right away, but the thing is we can certainly be people who have honesty and the sense of work ethics and so on, and this is what we are looking for the future, for ourselves, I would think, and maybe that's where the word hope is there. And of course, faith has to be involved, there's no question, but by the same token, this is a time where we have to try to have hope, because not everybody has hope. You know, we all know that there are people who, they just live without it, and they become cynics. Unfortunately, cynicism is the exact opposite of hope, because it comes a lot easier than hope. You know, a lot of people refuse to accept hope in their hearts. They say, hey, things are never going to change, so why bother hoping? But the reason why cynicism comes easier to people, easier than hope, is that it requires nothing from them. They don't have to trust, they don't have to have faith, they don't have to have effort, no love, none of that. And there are some people that think that hope is the same as optimism even, but they're very different. They're not the same. Optimism is an expectation that something is going to get better, whatever the situation. Hope instead, and I think this is where, Ken, you certainly picked it up real fast earlier, is the trust that God will fulfill his promises in his way and in his own time. The person of hope lives in the present moment, enjoys what's given to him or to her, and the reason that he or she can do that is that they know and they trust that all of life is in the hands of God. And I think you picked that up right away.
Here's my point. Situation. A good friend, family member, has been told they have stage 4 cancer. I say, I hope there's a solution and a light at the end of this tunnel.
Right.
I hope my friend, my family member gets better. As opposed to saying, I have faith that my friend is going to get better. I have faith that my family member, my friend, will survive this. Hope just seems like, well, I hope she gets better. I hope it's going to be okay. Do you follow that or not?
I do.
Okay. Hope is a wonderful thing. I hope to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I hope someday we all grow up to get along peacefully. I just think that words like pray and faith could substitute the word hope. That's it. That's what I got in my take.
Yeah, but I think hope comes from faith. If you have no faith, you can't hope. I mean...
But do you follow what I'm saying?
I do, and I like it. But I think it's because the two are really related, there's no question. But they are slightly different. We have to have faith in order to have hope. But because we anchor our lives on the word that the Lord gave us, and so that we hope that all things will be fulfilled as he has planned, not necessarily as I have planned. If you look at the great leaders of the world, you see that they are people of hope. They didn't need to know what the future would look like. They just tried to do what was right in the present. And then they trusted that God would take care of the future. It was enough for them to know that God is a faithful God. So I think that has to be faith. It cannot be anything else.
Well, there's a bundle, faith, hope, and charity.
Yeah, there's no question.
I think that's a better way for me, Ken Calvert, to look at hope, as being a part of that bundle. Faith, hope, and charity.
Yeah, and charity never fails. I mean, love is going to be there in the next life.
Absolutely.
We're not going to need hope, that's for sure, because we will have achieved whatever we were looking for. We don't need faith. We'll be face to face to God.
Right.
And so we'll have love, though. Love is going to stay on. And, that's one of the readings from Paul to the Corinthians where he speaks about that. And it's used at a lot of the wedding, that second reading. They usually use that one because faith, hope, and charity are important, but the one that lasts forever is love, charity.
Yeah,
So.
Absolutely. Gosh, I mean, a lot of people here in the Midwest don't like the weather until you wake up on Christmas Day and there's a little bit of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it seems like, that's nice. But it's a time of year, you can already sense it, and I know we've talked about the commercial angle of it, but getting back to the season of Advent and you as a padre, as a priest, do you find the pews a little fuller?
At least it was that way. And we've talked about this so many times.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
We have, but basically the pews are emptier than they used to be.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking about generally in all of the mainstream churches, whether it be Lutherans or Congregationalists and so on and so forth, Catholics and so on. Yeah, those that are faithful are probably coming more often. I think that's what you mean.
Yeah.
They're much more interested in what's happening. It is a beautiful season of the year, the idea of hope, that you're waiting for this wonderful thing to come about. The prophet Isaiah said it beautifully. This is when the lamb and the lion will be able to sit together, as it were, this type of thing.
Sure.
There's another part to this Sunday's readings, and that's from the Gospel, where we see John the Baptist, he calls people to repent. And basically what it means to repent is a change of heart. Make sure that you know what's important in life and to change whatever needs changing in our lives. And this is a good season to take that on. It's only by changing the wrongs in our lives that we can change the world around us. Because, let's face it, it's all about people. And so changed people bring about a changed world. And so John the Baptist tells us to repent, which again is the idea that we have to figure out what's messing up things in our hearts and remove them so that we can really repent or change, convert, whatever else you want to use there, so that we could bring about change in the world. Otherwise, there'll never be change in the world.
Mm-hmm. I always think about the readings in the gospel, how it has to, as we begin now, as you mentioned at the top, cycle A, that it tends to change back into the fresh direction, that leading up to the birth of Christ. I find this entire process within the church fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But this all of a sudden ramps it up a little bit. You sense the excitement. And it only happens really twice a year, right? Christmas.
But they're lengthy periods.
They are lengthy periods.
Yeah.
And I think by design, whoever designed it, and I think we know who, wanted it to be just that. A lengthy period to really wrap our heads around what's about to happen and what's going to happen.
There's no question in my mind when you look at life itself. It's made up of the ordinary day-to-day doldrum things that we do, but then we kind of rev ourselves up as we prepare ourselves for Christmas. So it kind of reflects what happens in real life or everyday life. And the same thing, Lent is a time to maybe suffer a little bit, you know, just to be in solidarity with Christ until we can come to that day of salvation, resurrection, all of that wonderful stuff. So I think it works in a way that it reflects our everyday life.
Selfishly, I'm glad that Lent is not around Christmas time. I mean, it would be really hard to say, I'd love to, but I gave up hors d'oeuvres for Advent. You know?
But Advent is not penitential. All I want to say is this. When all is said and done, the world will never fulfill our deepest hopes, no matter what it is that we hope for. Only God can do that. Meanwhile, we live in the hope that helps us keep one foot in this world as it is, and the other in the world as it should be.
I think that's something everybody should pause the tape, rewind just a little bit, and listen to that part again, because, boy, does that ever nail it. God bless you. It's not too late to learn a little bit from this fellow across from me right now.
I'm learning from you, so there.
All right, I'm Ken Calvert, and we will see you next time on the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast.
I look forward to seeing you. Thank you. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.